Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rebirth, a D&D tale where a few Twitch streamers and some others sit around and play Dungeons and Dragons. So how's everybody in chat? Welcome to our new broadcast. And welcome. First off, this is session 0, so we're going to be doing a number of things tonight where we're going to introduce the world, we're going to introduce our characters and ourselves, and kind of go over some things that might be a little different compared to how other DMs might run their games. So, first off, welcome. And tonight, we're going to be going over the introduction of the world. The world, which you know, as characters, is collectively called Zuviwal. The origin of this name for the world comes from the old Doppel word meaning mother. The morning sky is bright with a single sun, and the night sky is dominated by a large white moon that cycles 3 times per season. Each season is roughly 90 days. To begin, this campaign will take place in the southern hemisphere about 100 years after the destruction of the sky-shattered Leviathan, the flying aberrant beast that commanded the Foulfire Crater for nearly 4 years. During those 4 years, the frozen tundras in the north and southern poles began to expand rapidly, causing shorter summers and blisteringly long winters. As a result, the tundra north of the Grey Heights in the Shadowheart Empire, to the far north, became too cold to sustain any life, and the southern oceans nearly froze over completely over the southern peninsulas and islands of Breckenrock, the Guerra Archipelago, and Argyll. As a result, many inhabitants of the affected regions fled to more tropical climates to attempt to escape the freezing of their homes. Scientists in surrounding regions believe that this to be an extremely quick weather change around the world, and normally the weather does not tend to make such drastic changes. And to this day, they're baffled by the sudden onset of freezing temperatures reaching far into the tropical regions of the continents of Mesopotami, Ionia, and Dradith, but have charted that the ice in the northern regions is receding. Given enough time, the cold wastelands of the world might recede back to their normal line. And so this is where we are going to join our characters. 100 years post the events of the Chroma Company, post the destruction of the Sky Shadow Leviathan, the disappearance of Shonaruth and its influence, and the collapse of the religion of Ouijas. So, to start around the table, we're going to introduce characters and, of course, ourselves as players, and kind of, start from the top as you see them here listed. So we're going to start with Demon Quingar. Demon Quingar, who are you and who are you playing?
I'm Demon Quingar, and I am playing Darius Bliss. It's a tiefling. Don't really know what.
Well, tell us a little bit about him and where he comes from. Maybe something he wants to. Maybe that's something you want to keep and reveal for us later. But give us a little bit of an idea of what he's like, his personality, his quirks, maybe, and where he is currently.
Darius is very. He is almost very pirate-like. Has pretty foul mouth, and is on the, I believe the ship is called the Anne Bonny.
That's correct.
Has been on the ship for a little while, but still trying to find his way around and learn what he can. Um, he Give me a second. Um, he's a betting man, never can pass up a friendly wager. Um,
Oh dear.
and respect is a big thing to him.
Mm.
So having that mutual respect. Grew up in a harbor town. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's Darius.
that's Darius.
He's a little reserved.
Captain Charlotte actually likes you quite a lot because you're right beside her when it comes to going to other port towns and going to the casinos and the gambling rings and everything else because you're willing to throw down just as much as she is, if not more sometimes. And she definitely likes betting against you, with you, the whatever the event calls for. Next up is going to be our next person would be Woden Emrys. Woden, why don't you tell us a little bit about your character, where they're from, and name and all that other good stuff.
Hi, I'm playing Kinwin Silverwolf, a half-elf druid from Surefall Glades. Was raised in the faith since his parents were killed in a raid by Black Pearl Knolls. He got the ideal of charity
Mm.
and always tries to help those in need. And is tolerant or intolerant of other religions, depending on which one.
Mm.
The vestment he wears uses doppel imagery.
Like a tree of life. Definitely very iconic in the sort of uh, especially with your tribe. The tree always represents fertility and the uh, kinds of life bearing imagery, and so that's very important to your whole clan, really. And and I really like that. That's definitely very good. And the next in the line would be Ravenstar. Ravenstar, give us a little bit of an idea of who you are and who you're playing today.
Hi, I'm Raven. Not really too much to say, but I am playing the elf Vanya Stormcrow. Comes from I believe it's pronounced Hessen.
Mm,
Coffee.
yeah, the continent's called Hessen, but
Yeah,
the country is the Gregorian Empire.
thank you. One moment. Uh, she comes from a little bit of a decent-sized city named Hazelmire. Her parents own a instrument shop where they craft all the instruments they sell. She's kind of a happy-go-lucky person. You know, she likes seeing people smile more than anything else. So.
Very nice, very nice. Next up is Spectre Deflector. Hi, Spectre. Tell us who you're going to be playing, who you are, and who you're going to be playing.
Hello, my name is Spectre Deflector. I'm going to be playing Rune, who is a Warforged Artificer. He's kind of a mystery. He woke up in what seems to be some sort of tomb from Fallfire, though he won't necessarily tell people this. He prefers to mostly keep to himself, but his major influences is that he is out on a mission to find out what he is and what kind of magic is involved in this world. He's basically wandering around with no concept of anything. Lots of questions.
Lots of questions. Lots of questions. Very nice. Very nice. And next up is Pale Dragon. Pale Dragon, give us an idea who you are and who you'll be playing.
All right. Well, hello. I am the Pale Dragon, or Jess. I personally breed bearded dragons. I love eldritch horror, dragons, dinosaurs, all that fun stuff. And I'll be playing Shekrun La Vista. She goes by Shay. She's by all appearances a human. Raised in a big family. Kind of has some confidence issues. Adopted when she was a very young child and kind of grew up a sheltered lifestyle. Was able to convince her mother to let her kind of step outside the usual academics and more noble expectations of her lifestyle and go out and begin to adventure. She just really ultimately wants to make a name for herself and do good things. Might be a little naive in the way of the world, but she's excited to explore.
Very nice. And Dark Wolf. Tell us who you are and who you'll be playing.
I'm Coach Dark Wolf. I'm also part of the Hero Zone. I was also part of the last campaign that this is the sequel to. I am playing River Waters, a tiger-coated tabaxi. He is originally from the forest of Dradith, but has, unfortunately, he was kidnapped and taken into slavery and found his way to a gladiatorial ring. He has since escaped, although suffered major injury to his arm. And he ended up in, is it Argyll?
Argyll.
Argyll?
Mm-hmm.
He ended up in Argyll, where he met Kinwin, who helped heal his arm some. His arm is still not fully usable, though, so he keeps it hidden under a cape.
Very nice. And then we have Mojo. Mojo, tell us about yourself and who you'll be playing.
I am Mojo Jojo, Simba's Bloody Mojo on Twitch. Play in a few games with other people in and around the community. I will be playing Lagan Calagiano, a Goliath, who is apprentice to the sailmaster of the Anbani, and Tempest Cleric. Spending most of his life on board ship, has never really been very sheltered at all. Has a bit of a kleptomania problem. Any loose coin or trinket that he finds fascinating, he tends to pocket.
Oh, no. Well, if you're pretty good at it, Captain Charlotte Badger is probably going to be very appreciative of that skill, because sometimes nimble fingers and quick wit is what she's looking for.
Sometimes it'll piss her off. Because it's her trinkets and coin that he's pocketing.
There's that too. There's that too. That's definitely very, very understandable there. And yeah. And then we also have Maddie Morgs in the background, because he will also be kind of assisting us in this session 0, as it were, and is the originator of the campaign world. So Maddie, say hi.
Oh, hello. I'm here.
How you doing, Maddie?
I'm very well, thank you. Sorry for being a little bit late here.
That's
But
all
it is
good.
a pleasure to meet all the characters, and as much as I can, I'll be along the ride for and with you all, as I'll be listening in and providing little detail or counsel or otherwise, hopefully helping to work in the background to give you all an amazing game and something that you will appreciate and have memories of for years to come.
Yes, hopefully, because the the aftermath of what happened in this world as a result of the actions and inactions of the Chroma Company is going to be revealed to some degree in this game,
Yeah.
and and you know, hopefully the audience will be along for the ride, and uh, if for any reason you guys miss an episode, you can always go to !YouTube, go to my YouTube channel and find the VODs, because I will be posting them all there the day after we go live on Twitch, so that you guys don't miss anything. Generally, the game is going to start at 7 p.m. Central Time, uh, we're kind of all here and presence and not going too late, because some of us have lives lives beyond Twitch. But yes,
What are those?
but yeah, that's the characters and the setting a little bit here, and um I've kind of got a little bit of an itinerary, but questions are always welcome from my players. You guys can ask me DM questions or things like that, and for the moment. But we'll be getting into some of the expectations and mechanics that I intend to employ too here in a little bit. So, has anybody got any questions so far? All right. Well, kind of getting into that then. What I, as a DM, expect is have fun. That is really all I expect. Uh, as a DM, my primary focus is to make sure that everybody at the table is enjoying themselves in one way or another. My personal shtick when it comes to storytelling is I do tragedy very typically, and so all of you have included to some degree a a tragic element to your story, and be aware that I am going to pluck at your heartstrings. It's
Oh God, pressure.
Trauma and drama.
Good luck.
Drama and drama. Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. I love to in role play cry myself. So if you can make me care enough to cry about your character, then you have done well as a player, and I have done well as a storyteller. And we have coffee cry emotes for a reason, because it does happen on stream. I have been known to do so. And so when I feel like I've accomplished something for you in doing that, and so I want to help you tell the stories that you want to tell through your characters. This is, of course, a party game, because D&D is, party oriented, but I still want you as the player to be able to tell the story that you're looking to tell with the characters you've built. And so in that respect, by including something on your character sheet, that you've given me permission to pluck at it. Now, is there anyone who objects to that?
Challenge accepted to make CoffeeCat cry. Go.
That is
The
mission.
challenge is not for
Yep,
for us to
that
make
sounds
him
about right.
cry. It's for him to make us cry.
Again,
Yes.
good luck with that.
About half of you I've
You
played
say
with.
that.
Half of you I've played with before, half of you I have not. So this is why I'm kind of bringing some of that up. It's because, I don't want to make too many assumptions, but I feel like if you've included it on your sheet, I'm allowed to at least poke at it a little bit. Now,
Sure.
I at the table employ a. We're never gonna do anything that's gonna even touch Twitch TOS. This will be a rated R-ish game, but Twitch TOS is above all where the line is drawn. Now, if there are other lines you would like to fade to black, then I do employ the red card system, where if something just needs to stop and be done, you can red card and we will move on. And I always employ that in my games because I feel that we'll either fade to black and go to break, or we'll fade to black and move on to something else. And so I want you guys to feel comfortable knowing that that is something that you are more than free to do, because we don't want to cross lines. We don't want to end friendships. I don't want to break you. I just want to poke at your heartstrings and maybe tug a tear out of an eyeball. But yeah, that's any questions so far?
Can we use a red card if we're about to lose a battle?
Valid question. But if you do that, it is assumed you lost horribly. So that's if you choose to do that, to fade the whole battle to black, it is assumed that you all have lost. So you do so at your own peril. That's another thing. I don't intend to TPK. TPK means everybody's story is at an end, everybody stops having fun, and the game ends absolutely suddenly. That is not something that I intend to do. So,
We can die. We can die. It's just we can't total party die.
If you total party die, I'm gonna be sad, because then I can't play the game anymore either.
Got it.
It's
Not
just got
like
a little
15 goblets acting at once.
Little part.
No, well, to a degree. I'm not gonna keep you from dying, but I'm not gonna wipe the whole party because haha, I got you. That's not
Makes
something
sense.
that I do. But
So it's one of those things like you're not gonna intentionally put us in a place like that, but if we decide to make a bunch of stupid decisions,
I mean, that's on you.
Or the
I would assume that's on us.
Sorry, what was that, Woden?
Oh, nothing.
Oh, okay. I thought somebody said something that was...
I said, or the dice hate us that night.
Oh, right. That was Quingar that said that, sorry.
Dice curses do exist.
Dice curses do exist. That's what the break is for. If you need to re-bless your dice, there's Derek Dice as a meme, kind of going around my circle of friends. That's a very real possibility where the dice could utterly say no. Which you just take them somewhere else for a moment, do what you need to get your good juju back, and we'll be fine.
Make them senseless.
Dice jails and chairs of shame for them
Mm.
are a thing.
I personally don't have a dice jail, but feel free to dice jail your dice if you need to. But yeah, so we'll be in this game. We'll be using primarily real actual dice, rolling in actual dice trays or on tables, and really only using things for tabletop like Roll20 and things like that for the presentation. It's for the music. I have you as the audience are not necessarily going to see any scenes that we include because with as many players as I have, I don't have room on this goddamn screen to put anything. So Oh well. It's the only thing I'm going to use it for me personally, and for you all personally, is to give you a little bit of inspiration about what settings and what people and what items and things like that. It's a management system that I'm going to use, and maybe throw in a little bit of setting inspiration and things like that your way, so that you can play off of it too. Um, I find myself very much in need of visual aids in order to be able to set a scene in some ways, uh, to 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 give me that sort of thing. So yeah, but I'll if at any point we come across like magic items, we come across what have you that I need to detail out for you, I will add an item card to the Roll20 so that you all can have it, and I don't have to worry about fishing it out of your character sheets and that sort of thing. So it's ease of use for me, ease of use for you. So that's what I'm gonna use Roll20 for, and of course, we're gonna use video for as much as we can, and when the appropriate scene calls for it, we will switch to an encounter, slide here on the screen. I forgot to re-add the that really be the only time that we, use a tabletop camera. So we're gonna have an at-table experience without being at a table together. So, 'cause I have minis that I want to use, and I'm a mini collector. And I want to use them for the various things, so that you, the audience, can enjoy that too. There are going to be some mechanical similarities to the things that Maddie presented, such as Fickle God's Favors. Fickle God's Favors will be employed at 25,000 channel points to grant a point of inspiration to a player. Now, this point of inspiration is the mechanical inspiration that you get in D&D 5e, in that it is granting you advantage on a skill check, a saving throw, or an attack roll of your choice. And must be declared before the roll is made that you are going to spend your inspiration for that advantage, and work mechanically like the D&D 5e inspiration does. And there are other ways to gain inspiration, but that is how the audience can get involved. The other way that the audience is going to get involved is that they're going to be involved in some, not all, but some of the experience gain that our players will have. The way that experience is going to work in this game is different than D&D. It's a little more similar to a milestone in that it's arbitrary in some degree and variable in others. For arriving at the table, each player gets 5 experience. And for leveling, it's 10 times the new level. So to get to level 2, you would need 20 experience. So, in a way, it's kind of like milestone. But the way in which it varies a little bit between that is that I will be employing some mechanics that I have pulled from Derek and used in my vampire games, in that there was bonus experience, in which case bonus experience comes down to A, did you complete an objective that you had for the game as a party? You get between 1 and 10 experience for completing an objective, depending on the importance of it. 2, then it comes down to player decided experience, in which bonus experience is applied to a character for one having who pushed a plot, be it a personal plot, be it a main part of the main plot, be it a side plot, who pushed that plot the furthest. And that will be voted upon by our players. And all three of these categories will be implemented. And the second one would be who had the best scene as far as roleplay, and who had the best line of the night. And those 3 points of experience will go bonus to an individual player, so that's, a little bit of a reward for good roleplay in that regard. The last point of bonus experience comes down to an audience poll for the audience's favorite character of the night. This is going to be every session, and so the audience will decide, as fickle gods as they are, that who gets that bonus 1 point of experience from them collectively. And so that's how experience is going to work in my game. It is part arbitrary based on what I decide, and partially how you decide, and partially how the audience decides, so that we can so that we have a little bit of variance, and but also a little bit of continued progression where nobody's falling too far behind based on things. I hear a lot of echo coming from somebody, and I think that's you, Woden. So if you just mute up a little bit. But does anybody have any questions regarding all of that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not for me, anyway.
Okay. No questions? Okay. Well, that's the mechanical difference, is that, milestone is completely arbitrary by the DM. Experience is far too convoluted. So I'm going to base it on what happened in the game as far as my part of it. So that's where the arbitrary parts comes in from me. But yeah, that's
Speaking of other mechanics, then a couple things. Maybe you had brought it up while I was not here. In the game that I had run, obviously there were spells that were not available,
right?
Just because it was DM preference, or it played into the story that was going to unfold. Similarly, there was magic items that also just they didn't exist for one reason or another. Are there any considerations that you want the players to have, or for you and I as colluders in the story, to plan to include or to plan around, because this thing doesn't necessarily have to be worried about, being brought up or used? Or is there a spell that's okay, but there's this one consideration to it?
For the most part, when it comes to spells and magic items, everything that is available to the characters will be rules as written. However, planar travel is thought to be impossible because the material component, the tuning fork to tune to another plane, is not proven to exist at all. So there is no planar travel to anyone's knowledge in the world. Now, that isn't to say that the stories about other places, like the Feywild or Shadowfell or any others of these pseudo planes, stories of them might exist where people have gone into portals and gone someplace else, such as the Chroma Company going to Oiho, or Hell, as they maybe colloquially called it. Stories like that exist, but the evidence of which, whether or not they are true, doesn't exist. So it's on your character to determine whether they believe that or not, whether they believe in a heaven or hell or not, whether they believe that people have gone to a place where the Fae reside and thrive. Have people gone there? Is it true with the stories that they tell? Who knows? Nobody can really prove it because there's no evidence to suggest such. And so, what Fae and Fiends have appeared in the world are in this world. They're in the material plane. So, them coming from other places isn't proven. Elemental planes are not thought to exist. So, the cosmology, whether you're a religious character or not, is that potentially there's a heaven or a hell when you die. There's a material plane, and that's really about it. That's all that's proven. Ish. Resurrection spells that take longer than an action, such as Revivify takes an action to do, but all resurrection spells are going to require basically the Matt Mercer skill check, where it is going to be a kind of skill challenge in that the presumption is that the characters that arrive on the scene to contribute to the ritual are the people who know the character the best and would be able to contribute to the ritual to bring them back. And that skill challenge will either raise or lower the difficulty that I ultimately roll for a non-modified d20. And that will determine whether or not the character can be revived or not. And that is how resurrection spells are going to work. Where previously, Maddie didn't include any resurrection spells whatsoever.
This is true.
I personally don't like being that restricted to my players. I have no qualms about making it difficult enough for the characters as they are, because I don't plan to go easy. I don't plan to TPK. But if the dice say so, that's the will of the gods. And so
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. You have a question.
Not meaning to interrupt, but anything. So are you including Revivify in that
Yes.
entire group?
Revivify will not have the option to have others contribute because it only takes one action to do. It will be a strictly you and the person who died. That there's the modified d20 is going to be a difficulty 10 and scale as you continue to get revived. And scale in difficulty based as you can, continue to get revived over time, because I like the flavor that it adds, because that's you becoming less and less attached to the world.
Right.
Dying is hard.
Dying is easy. Coming back is hard.
Coming back is hard, as the characters of the Chroma Company have well and all proven. Coming back to life is hard, and the fact that Weejass as a god is no longer really in the pantheon anymore. It's kind of even become taboo to revive anyone, to raise dead, to raise undead, to foster ghosts as a thing. It's all become collectively in the world something that you just don't do, because for whatever reason the thing that took its place doesn't like it when you do that. So take that for whatever you will. And so that's how I want to include resurrection spells without making it, oh, I died, well, I can just get revived, blah blah blah. Not make it interesting. I want it to become a roleplay element too, where the contributors to the spell, quote unquote, are are making their heartfelt pleas, and it gives a good role play moment for the characters to either realize the bonds that they have and express them, or realize or express something that's been long felt and they just haven't had a moment, that kind of a thing. I want it to be a good role play experience as a part of that, so that's why I want to include that as a mechanic for resurrection spells. Not like we're anywhere near that yet. That's level 5 spells and beyond, but that's most everything else is going to be rules as written. I don't really fluff around with a lot of homebrewing. I do, and the supplements that we're going to be using are going to be the ones that I own, which are going to be things, Eberron Rising of the Last War, obviously the core rulebook, the player's handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, Monster Manual, and Volos and Tashas, and published supplements that that are available. Homebrewing and UA, I've only made one exception for, and that's UA Beastmaster, because that hasn't been officially published yet, and it's the better Beastmaster Ranger, because PHB Beastmaster Ranger is awful. So that's the only UA exception that I've made so far. And so most everything else is rules as written. Published.
I have another question.
Sure.
Along the lines of your planar travel spells, how will that affect spells like banishment?
Banishment is based off of a pocket plane. And things that include pocket planes like Bags of Holding, like Magnificent Mansion, spells and items that incorporate that kind of a feel, where it's a little tiny pocket dimension that's been created for this, this spell or this item to have open into. Those will be included. But extra planar things like going to the Blessed Fields of Elysium, that's probably not going to happen, because there's no tuning fork in the world that has been assigned to the Blessed Fields of Elysium. And so, but little pocket dimensions. Now, I will say, you're not sure where that pocket dimension leads, and if somebody else can find your shit in that little pocket dimension.
Okay.
Just because it's a little hole in the space of in the fabric of reality doesn't mean that hole isn't somewhere else in the world. So, a portable hole could be a hole dug out somewhere else in the actual real world, and this is a link to it. So, depending on where it's linked to, your stuff might get stolen.
That kind of reminds me of one of the first campaigns I ever played, which was 3.5, and they had a bag of holding. The party had a bag of holding, but the bag of holding didn't have its own plane or anything. It just straight up led to a dragon's den that we defeated.
Hey, Lamau.
It was just the dragon's horde.
But more or less, items and spells and things like that are going to be rules as written, because I have a hard enough time remembering things as as a storyteller in game, much less having to go back to a book and say, oh, how did I fluff that? So it's just easier for me.
Even with that consideration, where things work as the book says, for the players, how common would magic items be? Now, that's setting aside the rarity that the book assigns to magic items. I'm not talking about that. I mean, in the realm, in the world. When you were playing in Mesotopia, magic items were not very accessible. You tended to find them in very wealthy parcels, or got them through. I mean, a magic item shop was itself a very expensive or rare place, or you were dealing with Selter, who just got them from other people. There wasn't a lot of creation of them. There wasn't a lot to be expected to be found or purchased in that region. But that being said, in this region, because this is different, magic is different, etc., can the players just go and find? Are there common magic item shops that they could go into? And if everyone wanted a bag of holding, can they just go and buy one like we go to Walmart and go get groceries, kind of a thing? Or are magic items, they can be used, but should the players count on them being rarer in distribution, really like handed out by you as the DM, or what?
No, that's actually a really good question, because the commonality of magic items is actually significantly larger in this particular region, because the most prominent manufacturer of magic items for this region, for Hessen, for Gruyere Archipelago, for Argyll, is internationally traded from Phoenix Wonder Prizes and one other company. Oh, who is that? And then there's also the Paragon Electric Power Company that also services arcane electric power to a lot of its own country. And so common magic items in the rulebook as common items will be common as written. Uncommon will be uncommon as written. Now, the pricing, I probably will decide arbitrarily, because for one, they have a monopoly in the entire world on these items, so they can set their prices and be totally fine. And it kind of comes down to still being a very luxurious item. Now, they'll be commonly found, but very expensive. So, shops will have the occasional discounted rates. They'll have the occasional things like that. But magic item shops are common enough where you'll find at least common items in every city. So, things that, don't require a whole lot. Things like lanterns that don't go out and things of that sort. Whatever. I haven't actually looked at the actual item list, but things that would be, common enough for a industrialized arcane country will be common.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So, out of curiosity, in the basis of a bag of holding, where it would be like a pocket dimension and whatnot, if the company creates bags of holding, for example, would they allocate it to like a bank or something, or would we be able to attune where the bag of holding goes?
That would be something to discover. That would be something to discover in game, whether or not you can actually change the location of your bag of holding or not. But
okay.
But it is safe enough to assume that with them being kind of, I forget the rarity in the book, but them, being common enough for us to be able to talk about, for them being, kind of a common D&D item that people come across, it is assumed that where they place it is going to be safe. At least according to the manufacturer.
I already don't trust it. They're gonna start taxing us the bank usage.
No,
wise decision.
It's one of those things that if that's the manufacturers know how to do it, they haven't really expressed exactly on what that research is. It's kind of hush hush. A lot of magic development is hush hush in the Gruyere Empire, because a lot of it comes out of the Gruyere Empire. That's where a lot of the international trade comes from, and they've had a big boom since magic kind of went kaput in all of the Mesotopia region, and they have made bank. You thought they were wealthy before, and they have made bank in the last 100 years. And who knows what that'll lead to. Being it's a plutocracy, and they are an empire. The wealthy judge how the rest of the country functions. So... You have Emperor Tegan Rythel to thank for that. So, any other questions?
Is there more than one type of bag of holding or like haversack? Different sizes, capacities, or are they all pretty much a standard?
They would have, like a handy haversack and a bag of holding definitely have their size limits, their capacity limits, where if you go over that or you puncture the bag or things like that, the spell of the bag of holding is dispersed and your stuff ejected from your safe.
Okay.
They do have capacity limits, yes, like the items actually have in the rules as written.
Oh, I was asking because I know that I've seen some that have a very limited capacity and some that have a larger capacity. They also have different carrying weights, regardless of what's inside them. That's what I was asking.
Right, and that might be as varied as the whole world. So they might come in different shapes and sizes. You might have an endless purse. You might have a giant backpack. Who knows?
Okay.
It just depends on what the shop is selling that day, I guess. Some things that are super common would be things like arcane light bulbs. Those kinds of things can be found everywhere, because Paragon Arcane Power Company wants lights and heat in every home. And with the sudden onset of winter for 4 years, that was looking like a really good possibility, and they were developing those things very quickly. So.
Do they have planned obsolescence?
Not to your knowledge. But yeah, that's kind of how that's gonna work. It's very magic oriented country, like part of the hemisphere. That's a lot of magical development and expansion and things like that came about. They were there before, but came about more recently in the last 100 years because of the boom that needed to happen, because there was a vacuum of magic in the Mesopotamian region that they decided they wanted to fill. So, a lot of exports from the Empire out to the rest of the world. So, there's a lot of influence that goes on there. But that's, kind of a little bit more about the world, too. So, any other questions? These are good ones.
How common are potions? And what kind of potions would be available?
Potions... I'm going to say that they're not common in any way, but they're not super rare either. You occasionally have the breweries who would have that available, but they're kind of few and far between.
Okay.
It's more mundane and mundane-ish magical items that you would find expressly common.
Okay.
Special items like bags of holding, like staffs that have powers, you have that, weapons that have magical uses. Those are about as common as you find in the book. It's just things for everyday living that are far more common. You have big box stores these days in a sense, where you have the big box store of of the D&D world that sells these things en masse. But
Oh, so you can just run out and buy a 6-pack of potions of healing?
no, not those. No, things like like I mentioned, arcane light bulbs. Those
Right,
things would be
right.
found at a sort of box store. That's more along the lines of what I'm thinking about when it comes to common magic items.
Okay.
Like everything else is as the book has stated.
Okay.
So, unless the potions are, they don't do a whole lot, so they're as common as the book would say.
Okay.
So,
Can players create potions or magical items?
they can with enough time and to be able to produce them. Now, when it comes to magical items, finding out how to do it is most of the battle. And so if you are out of nowhere saying, I want to create this item, well, first off, do you have instructions on how to do that? Yes or no? No? Then we have to go find instructions on how to do that.
On a similar note, I'm an artificer.
Mm-hmm.
And very specifically, I intend to take a subclass of artificer that lets me just pop said magic items out of existence as part of like a class feature. Do those same rules apply? Or can we just say the guy just has it in his head for some reason?
For an artificer, it works a little bit differently in that the magic items that you create are often tied to you, and if they're given to someone else, I'm not entirely sure how that interacts. So
well, he can make things like bags of holding, and it's been stated within the class that he can give a lot of these items and the things he makes to other players, to other characters.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I imagine it is he just makes it. The thing is that the items themselves are temporary. They're based off of like a sorcerer's skill points or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's you get extra attunement slots, so you use an attunement slot to make it. So if you give it to somebody else, it's still using your attunement slot. So it costs an attunement slot while you have it active, I think, is how it goes.
Right, and for flavor text for rune, it could be some kind of just spark of inspiration. But like you said, it is a temporary thing in that should you decide to turn it off, it turns off. You die, it turns off.
I'm just imagining.
It's not permanent until you can make it permanent.
I'm just imagining I'm just imagining the cuteness of him just like being like, okay, you need help. Giving one of the other players a gift, like, my guy, please get your shit together. Blump.
I mean, to be fair, he is also a Warforged who doesn't sleep, so he needs to bide his time somehow. And what does he do? Start drawing up sketches in the middle of the night. Has epiphanies out of nowhere.
Never need to take shifts. It's just him all night.
He just comes up with blueprints for the craziest things.
Yep.
Nobody else understands those blueprints. They're in a language even you hardly know.
Yeah, that's right.
It's all in binary. It's like, this is just a bunch of ones and zeros.
People look at this, what in the world is even this? They'd have to spend so much time deciphering the things that Rune makes.
Cheers.
Cheers. So yeah, as a bit of flavor, yes, the items that you make are temporary until you make them not. So which you would need things like schematics and instructions and things like that for. That's a good question. Thank you for that. Any other questions from the Peanut Gallery?
Will we implement Rule of Cool?
Rule of Cool is always on the table. Rule of Cool is always on the table. One very, very keen instance that I remember is the monster that I was having a couple of my players in a previous game fighting was, I forget, it was like one of their adversaries or something, like a longtime adversary or something like that, and this character wasn't, this NPC, this bad guy wasn't even, he was very hurt, to the point of, any hit could have ended him right then and there. Still had about 100 hit points left, which was doable for the team in that particular state. That in that instance, two of the characters passed on a deception check to look like they were surrendering, and made their attack rolls, and without even thinking about it, I just instantly killed that character. That was cool. It was close enough to dead anyway, so I just let him have it. And the rule of how do you want to do this is also on the table. So if you don't do something like that, but you want to finish it coolly, and you get it to 0 hit points, I will ask you, how do you want to do this? Because I feel that that's a good roleplay moment too, especially for our players who like more dungeon delvey kind of games, in that it gives you a bit of flavor text on how you want to kill the boss. And so the how do you want to do this and Rule of Cool are absolutely things that I implement, because I might arbitrarily decide, you know what, I'll give it to you. It progresses the thing that I wanted to happen anyway. Let's go. So yeah, that's always a thing that we can do. I had a thought and now it's gone. I don't remember what I was going to bring up next.
Well, on the topic of encounters, with Coffee's focus on tragedy and just sort of emotive storytelling, do keep in mind that some of the best encounters in my own experience as a player and as a DM are encounters that have no rolls to hit, no hit points. They are moral decisions. They are spiritual decisions, something that fundamentally could shape or change or rock your characters. And with as many of you that there are as players, I'm sure that there will be times when, as the players, you're like, yeah, well, we're all playing a game, we're all friends, and we get that. But your characters may come to hard decisions that would require thinking and working out in some creative way. Otherwise, it would not be a challenge to you all if your morals weren't tested. Some of the highest tier villains are often ones that you can almost find no fault with what that villain is presenting or saying or doing, and so you need to be able to work out what are my morals in this decision. Like, you will be responsible most likely in the course of this story, however long it goes. I don't know if you brought that up. If this is like a shorter form, playing to 10, going full out to 20 over a couple years or whatever, but
haven't really gotten to that point yet. But
okay.
But to answer your question, Maddie, what we've discussed so far in our own chat, and I know that we can kind of go over this a little bit more too as a group here on air, but a lot of the players have indicated that the intention is to do more exploring, more battling, more more obviously role playing, but kind of focus in on traditional encounters, if that makes any sense, because there's always going to be an option to take a creative route, but I'm not going to punish my players for just seeing that it's an enemy that they can defeat by just hitting it with hit points and that be the end of it. I don't intend to. I struggle enough with puzzles as it is. I don't want to make anything more complicated than I can solve, because I know that I find myself banging my head up against a brick wall for trying to figure something out in character that, you know, my character should be able to do, but my dice are failing me at it. So, you know, I'm kind of the more traditional encounters kind of a thing, where there's always the option to turn it into something else, like to that the defeat of the quote unquote bad guy of the particular session or whatever can be done creatively, but I'm not going to make that the exclusive end all, if that makes sense, in any encounter.
I kind of have like this slight expectation.
Mm-hmm.
I love having moral encounters, and I love like experiencing the ambiguity of different forces, different sides,
Right.
like not just like good and evil, but like lawful versus chaotic, or neutrality versus like apathy versus compassion, etc., or whatever it is.
Right, and those themes will come up.
Yeah, but I'm not done. Sorry.
Okay.
One thing that I like in D&D games that I've played Vampire with you, and I'm okay. Like, I don't really have that expectation in Vampire, but one expectation I have in D&D is to always have an unambiguous enemy.
Of course.
Like, there's always like one bad guy that we can always count on being a bad guy. And we always follow like a trail of alignment within that route, and then we have these subtle in-character moments between these other forces that define our morality in more ambiguous ways. But I do like having one unambiguous guy.
Right. An evil guy for an evil guy's sake. Yes, where that's considered maybe like the B tier enemy, as far as you know what's considered, like S class, A class, B class, C class, shit tier, whatever you want to call it. Having an evil for evil's sake enemy is a good way to make progress. I also have plans to incorporate enemies that may or may not seem as enemies at first. They may actually be allies. I do have some ambiguous plans, but not all of them are ambiguous. So there is going to be a clear delineation of who would be your enemy and who would be not in certain cases and blurry in others. So it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag, like you were saying. And most of the characters that I've seen so far aren't really even good aligned. Most of you are neutral, and so even you as characters are ambiguous, or a little bit ambiguous. In that, even some of those moral gray areas are a little bit extended for some of the characters, which is fine. We have it. As long as everybody's expecting to play a somewhat morally gray campaign where they want to kind of reside in that realm, sure, we can do that. If you want a clear bad guy, we can do that. I suppose that's kind of up to you guys. Do you guys want a clear big bad evil guy, or do you... I mean, I've even asked you guys, on the political, as far as the theme, which would be where some of your some of your more ambiguous enemies would lie. You guys kind of nixed that idea in the chat. So with the kind of blurry gray areas, you kind of nixed all the political stuff. So you're not really interested in delving into that. You want more of a more dungeon delving, more fact finding, or more archaeological, more monster hunter kind of a game. In that you want to kind of do a monster of the week.
Need more dungeons in our dragons and more dragons in our dungeons.
And so with all of that in mind, the plan is to have archaeological finds. The plan is to have some moral quandaries, to have some monster hunting, a tiny bit of political intrigue, maybe to whatever interest you guys have. Introduce it. If you bite, you bite. If you don't, you don't. And have a clear enemy to defeat at the end. Now, the question is, how long do you guys want to go? Level 10 or level 20? Because I have plans for both.
I'm going to leave this
Good
up
for
to
long form.
I'm in for the long road.
Till the wheels fall off.
Till the wheels fall off.
I will play for as long as there is a game.
Hey, Lamau.
Yes.
I'm here.
What did you say, Woden?
20 would be nice.
20 would be nice. Okay. Quingar?
I'm down.
All right. Then 20 is the plan.
Woohoo!
20 is the plan. If for some reason we have to end short, I have plans for that. So I will be here at CoffeeCat Presents on Twitch for as long as you guys want to run on Thursdays. Because it's my days off and I can actually do some planning and shit.
I did have one question just real quick to confirm. How are you doing like encumbrance, like handling weight? Because I know like technically bags and containers have weight limits. Do you want us to keep those in mind, or is it based strictly on our carrying capacity?
As far as equipment goes, I am going to keep it simple. Because I do not want to complicate things for you. I do not want to complicate things for me. Anything that has a set weight in the book will be that, except for money.
Okay, so money is weightless?
Money is weightless. It has been refined to the point where you could even say a gold is even paper money. Where that's kind of the world that Shakran lives in. That things are so industrialized. She's from the Grioran Empire. And so the thought behind that is that, it's money has never been a thing to encumber you anyway.
Elder Scrolls style, baby.
Elder Scrolls style, baby.
Make your 20,000 gold.
Good. Sounds good to me.
Now, when you're getting into like the 20,000 gold, I might throw a little bit of like, ooh, that purse is getting rather full. That purse is getting rather full, my dear. You might want to bake some of that.
Shay can only carry about 75 pounds anyway, so her limit is not super high.
Right. So
we are scrawny. We are very scrawny.
Right. But as far as encumbrance goes, as stated as a standard item of that class, so a staff is going to weigh the same as a staff, whether it's magical or not. A sword is going to weigh the same, whether it's magical or not. Standard weights across all items, really. If it doesn't have a weight stated, then it doesn't weigh anything. So
Simple is as simple is.
simple is as simple is. That's the way I like it. Um, in that regard too, uh, you are responsible for your experience. You are responsible for your encumbrance, which is going to be simple. You either moving or you're not. There's no varied weights. You're not lightly, heavily, anything like that. Let's keep it simple. Um, but you are responsible for keeping track of your experience. I will do what I can to post what experience we give out every night. But you're in charge of tracking it. If you forget to add it to your character sheet and you lost it, you're not sure what number you were at before, sorry, I can't help you with that. You are responsible for your spells. You are responsible for knowing what your spells do and what your wild shapes are going to look like, and that sort of a thing. I am not necessarily going to go look up a spell for you, because I expect that most of you are casters, and so just having those at the ready is kind of what I expect. I mean, not at the ready where you're knowing what you're going to do in a given moment, but if you prepare spells, you have them prepared. If you need to go look them up, please look them up when it's not your turn, because we want to keep this flowing with 7 people. Even as easy flowing as it goes. I did give River and Kinwin a wild shape template form that they can fill in with their most common wild shape. So if you want to keep stats for your most common wild shape that you'll be taking, I give you a sheet for that. You can fill it out for your most common wild shape. Like your wild shape states, you keep your mental stats, charisma, intelligence, wisdom. You're just taking the physical stats of the beast. When polymorph comes up, as far as who can ever cast polymorph, and wild shape even, it's based on creatures that you have seen before. The creatures that you have seen before for River and Kinwin would be jungle animals. So anything that makes sense in a jungle would be things that you can transform into. So snakes, so birds of jungle variety, so insects of a jungle variety, some big cats, but not all. So if it has stats in the book, then that's something that we can consider.
I'd recommend almost keeping it'd almost be like a spell book for druids, except it would be your nature chronicle. Write down the creatures that you've encountered before in character creation, and the things that you encounter along your adventure, and write them down like they're spells. Make a little note about where you saw them, when you saw them, because part of the flavor is that you've studied those animals as well.
Right.
You've seen how they move. You've seen how they fly. You know that they operate in this way because of where they live. So keep a little journal, a little shapes, like a shape form book or whatever you want to call it, of what you've seen and when. And then it not only roleplay wise does it reflect what you've done as a druid, but it'll be a great reference because you can always go back and say, oh yeah, when we were traveling and we were on this island, we saw this thing. And here's the note that I have to remind yourself as well. You can always bring it up with Coffee, who might have forgotten that encounter. But you can go, no. Remember we fought these, saber-tooth seals. And, just mash 2 animals together like an avatar, right? We fought these saber-tooth seals on this island. And there you go.
Yep.
As part of this, since River did move around a bit, in being slave, and especially in the arena, would there be some extra animals that he would see?
Most everything that you would have encountered in the gladiatorial arena would have been a monstrosity of some kind. So it wouldn't necessarily.
Like lions or...
No, it'd probably be more along the lines of, easy to defeat monstrosities or beasts that you're probably already familiar with. So that's like lions and things. Lions are not a CR1 creature, and before you met Kinwood, you were just a gladiator. You were just a regular old dude, and so the likelihood of taking down a CR1 creature by yourself would have been because the most you would have had would have been unarmed combat or a dagger for a temporary amount of time, and so CR1's kind of hard by yourself.
Well, I assume like gladiator arena, they're not always bad.
Oh well,
They could set like 5 guys up against.
right. But in the cases where it was 5 guys, it was still a CR1, CR2 creature. So if you can make a case for a beast that's less than CR1 that you would have encountered in a gladiatory arena, I'll permit it. But your wild shape kind of determines your CR anyway, so the likelihood of that happening is kind of rare, kind of there. But if it's
River is going to be, so he does get a bit of a higher CR.
Right. You do get the higher CR compared to Kinwin, but it's the CR is still determined by your wild shape ability, and so even if you might have seen it before, you can't change into it just right off the bat.
Yeah, not off the bat. This is just for animals he has seen, because I intend to keep this.
Yeah. As a general rule, I'm going to say that the arena did not employ any animals, like beasts as a classification, above CR1. They would have employed monstrosities of all kinds, but beasts, not so much.
And we can only wild shape into beasts.
Sorry, what?
And we can only wild shape into beasts.
Wild shape is only into beasts, yes.
Yep.
Does that include swarm of tiny beasts?
No. You may be a singular beast. You may be a single tiny beast, if your wild shape allows you to do that, but if it does not allow you to be a singular tiny beast, then you cannot be a swarm. But yeah, then I still need to like really kind of do a deep dive into Druid and really figure out more of the mechanics of that, because I haven't actually played one myself, so I need to know and get familiar with some of the things in that regard. I mean, that's true of most of your classes anyway, but as far as skills and things like that, that's stuff we can always look up. Even if you have a question after the session, then that's certainly something that we could talk about. Especially if it's like, I'm very close to progressing, I need to have a question about this skill that's coming up, blah blah blah. We can talk more details about that. That's always the text chat that we have on Discord is a perfect place to bring that kind of things up, because without text, I am ludicrously bad with memory. And so if you at least send me a message about it, either in the Discord or private message, then I'll answer your question eventually. but yeah, you guys have brought up some good questions tonight, and I appreciate that. Any other questions?
Yeah, I've kind of got 2 more, just to real quick touch back onto experience, because I know like there's some that you're doing, at the end of like each session, and then of course the party as a party, everybody's getting some, and then extra. So, in that regard, when it comes to leveling, so once you hit, say, the next level, do you get that next level after your long rest, or do we wait until everybody reaches and everybody levels up together?
It's individual, so at the next long rest. So
Okay.
if, for instance, Rune is 2 experience behind you for leveling up to level 2, then Rune will have to wait until he gets that 2 experience. Uh, and you can level up to level 2 is on the next long rest. So that way, it's a little bit varied, and so it there is a little bit of kind of wiggle that goes on. Um, but so long as your character sheets are up to date, then we shouldn't have any problems. And like I said, I'm gonna do what I can to log what experience was given and by whom uh, after every session. So go over the list and say this is who did this and this and this, and and that sort of thing. Because I want to keep a record for myself at the very least. So that's I can easily know what it is that we did. And of course it'll be broadcast as well, so it'll be at the end of the VOD every session. So always going back to the VOD is an option too. So
Sounds good. And then the only other thing I was curious about, when it comes to ability score increases or feats, mostly when it comes to taking feats, do you want, like, for example, taking a feat, does it have to be backed up by in-game experience?
Yes and no, because most feats can be explained with a little bit of flavor text. So for instance, if Shakran decided to take the skilled feat, well, that makes a lot of sense given her education. That some things that she had been studying, back in the day, and she started to pick up a little bit more on now. For instance, some of the common skills that people take extra proficiency in, as far as like number of skilled things, would be like perception, which I think a rogue already has, but converting something from proficient to expertise, adding skills like skilled or feats like skilled, things of that sort, don't have to be explained in detail, but I do like a little bit of flavor. So if
Like a little bit of relevance.
a little bit of relevance, yeah. If something's come up where she's, spending quite a bit more time studying something, then taking an intelligence skill of some kind would make sense. Where if she's being a lot more observant and taking the observant feat, that makes sense. Those kinds of things. A little bit of flavor helps me integrate it into the story as part of your character progressing, as well as give you a little bit of a roleplay prompt to play off of how you came about that feat, for instance. With like ASI progression, that's that can use a little bit of flavor text too, because there's nothing wrong with adding a little bit of flavor to how things came about in your character's progression. Because I like it as a roleplay prompt, because that's something for me to feed off of, and it gives you a roleplay prompt to kind of deep dive into how your character functions with this newfound ability, or something that they've been working towards. So I like flavor.
Sounds good to me.
I have a question.
Yes.
Multi-classing.
Multi-classing is allowed, but the second class must have, at some point, at least 3 levels.
Okay. So if we do multi-class, it has to have at least 3 levels.
Over the course of level 20, yes.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be all at once, but it does have to happen at certain intervals.
Does that work as I would expect with your experience system? So like if you take your first level in a different class, you have to use 10 experience to get there? and then vice versa, and it's still split, like you can only put like 10 experience in one and then 10 experience in the other?
No, because combined level would still be level 20 at the end.
Okay. All right.
So it's the combined level regardless of class.
Gotcha. All right, makes sense.
So if you're working to add an extra class, you kind of have to work extra hard to even get level 1. Because everybody up until this point has already worked to get to level 1. So you kind of have to make the initial steps and really kind of progress that way. So for instance, if you take your first level of a second class, for instance, let's say wizard, to take your first level of wizard at level 5 up to level 6, it would be 60 experience.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
But if you're going to multi-class, it's got to be at least 3 levels. Because having one in everything makes it very hard on you and very hard on me to know what skills you have. So having a set path as to, you know, what it is that you are looking to do as far as another class is kind of what I'm looking for in that regard.
Yeah. It's not even necessarily something I was like consider. Well, I kind of considered it, but then I'm like,
well, I know that Dark Wolf is considering it for River, so that's that also, you know, explains it for them too. So
cool. Looking out for us.
looking out for it, buddy. Already thinking like a team. Great questions. I this is like the best session 0 I've ever had, I think, so far. Very engaged. I love that you guys are hype.
In case it ever came up, not saying it would, but what anything special in regards to like pets and mounts? Like for example, I know some do, like, if you don't get the pet involved, you're not using it for advantage or anything like that. They're invulnerable until you get them involved, or they're vulnerable all the time because they're with you. So like fireball goes off and they're dead too. So I'm just curious on that.
I want to interject. That's a really good question as well, because I know Pasha's Cauldron of Everything also has like a portion in it that has set rules for companions, and I don't know if that's I would like to also know if that's like applicable to pets and sidekicks, etc.
So in the case of companions, for one, we do have a Beastmaster Ranger who will ultimately have a companion to start, but also will turn into their Ranger companion ultimately at level 3. And so Vanya's already got her dog Zephyr, who is mechanically, I think we decided wolf, because he's a wolf dog. So if Vanya wants him to get involved, he will, up till like level 3 when he actually starts getting abilities from her. But he's mechanically still like an 8 HP dog. So he will act to defend himself, but he's gonna be less capable than taking him as a ranger pet, as a ranger companion, for instance. Because a ranger companion levels up with the ranger. Whereas if you have like a 2 HP pet bird, they're not going to be able to do a whole lot. So,
and I guess like, so that's my question. Like, so if Shay had like a parrot, it's not that like it's a pet, she doesn't use it for anything,
right?
Is that something that I, like, playing her, would have to keep in mind? Like, we're going down into a dungeon, I'm gonna find somebody in the last town we're at to watch my pet bird, or can the pet bird be along with me and it's just there, and unless I get it, like, it just exists? I guess that's my question. Do I need to, like, if you have a pet and it's not mechanically a part of a class or a feature or anything like that,
right, it's just something
do you have to take those considerations?
I'm gonna
Kind of in the same thing, like when people leave their horses outside the dungeon and just kind of, can we assume they're still out there?
Yeah,
Kinda-
right,
kinda
right.
thing.
Yeah. That kind of thing, like that kind of thing, like especially given the party's makeup, those kinds of things can be out of character accounted for, if that makes any sense, because feeding it is going to be something that everybody in the party is going to know how to do. We've got 2 druids and a ranger. We've got you know, it's assumed that I'm going to assume that unless you get your pet directly involved, like say for instance the pet bird's not going to be able to help you in a fight anyway, so it's going to get set aside and it's going to be invincible until you tell me otherwise.
Okay.
Now, if
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
a pet,
that's just what I wanted to double check.
now if it's a pet bear, like a helpful, like something that would be helpful in a conflict, yeah, if it's probably going to get involved whether you like it or not. So small animals, not really going to pay attention to. Bigger animals like dogs, like bears, like horses left outside the dungeon, they're still going to be there. But things you take into conflicts with you, into dungeons with you, that are going to be helpful, can be helpful, they are going to also be vulnerable. So, if you have a tiny weasel, a tiny weasel will just stand around your neck.
Right.
Does this world have miniature giant space hamster?
What about a giant space hamster?
Does this world have miniature giant
No. But yes, that's definitely good questions, because until Vanya actually is able to create that ranger bond with Zephyr, he's gonna be vulnerable. Because with that companion bond from Ranger, it gives you the ability to revive your companion. But until then, he's vulnerable. He may not be able to be revived. That's at level 3, though. That's what level 3 is, when you can create your companion bond with Zephyr. But until then, until then, Zephyr can indeed wake up on the wrong side of the bed and choose violence. So there you go. That's good questions. Good questions. Any others? Any other considerations? Any other comments? I think we've covered a lot when it comes to the mechanics of the game, and touched a little bit on our expectations as far as what we want out of the game, which is like we were saying before, kind of exploratory, kind of dungeon delvey, kind of just learning more about the world in general is the vibe that I got from most of you. Is that about right? So,
as in it's more of a hack and slash hex crawl than a wheeling and dealing political intrigue Game of Thrones.
There might be a tad of that thrown in there for flavor and for reasons to do that. Things are doing things, but I mean, unless you guys actually bite in on that kind of a plot hook, it generally felt more like a dungeon crawly, fight some monsters, explore the lore kind of a game. So there may be political factions who are wanting to know the same things that you are, who might get involved, who might become enemies, but it's not going to be a vampire game with the Camarilla. That's not what we're going for here. You don't have to wheel and deal with the emperor if you don't want to. You can. He's there. But you don't have to. Yeah.
No, I'm good with an adventure, but I do like that moral ambiguity and intrigue.
I do
from
intend
time
to
time.
I do intend to sprinkle some of that in, but I'm not gonna make it a major thing unless you tell me you want it to be a thing, which is you bite into that hook and you're like, take me on this ride. Because I want, my expectation is not to be the person who has written the story. My intention is to tell your stories. I set the stage, I play the supporting cast, you guys are the protagonists. It's your story. It's not mine. Yes.
I have one last question.
Yes, Peter.
Table etiquette.
Table
What are the expectations with that? I imagine for the most part it's pretty self-explanatory, but I like having it said out loud for the sake of everyone being on the same page.
Yes. Table etiquette is kind of what you've already been following, in that you're when someone is speaking, then Discord has the audacity to jumble voices altogether when it comes to multiple people talking at once. I can't even deal with multiple people talking at once in real life. Please, one at a time. So that's
Push to talk.
Push to talk is not necessary. It's only necessary when there's a lot of background noise going on. So the best setup, and if you can't manage it, that's fine. The best setup is to is an individual microphone and headphones where the sound has no way of overlapping. That's the best setup. And if that's not manageable, then of course using webcam mics is fine. But in those cases where webcam mics are the necessary microphone, that either push to talk or mute be implemented. Because I am often distracted by background noise, and if I can't concentrate, I can't help you tell a story. So the quiet push to talk isn't necessary, but general kind of one at a time talking kind of etiquette is encouraged, because talking over each other, nobody hears anything. The other table etiquette that I have as a general rule for all of my storytelling games is, if your character isn't in a scene, that you give due respect and quiet to the characters that are involved in the scene. Now, this doesn't actually happen as often in my D&D games. Most of my D&D games end up where the party's all together all the time, pretty much. But if you're having if, for instance, Vanya wants to have a sidebar with River, we give Vanya and River the quiet to do that scene. That they have the best roleplay experience in that particular part. Now, if you want to make, if for some reason River goes off on a tangent and says something really funny, that's perfectly fine. Laughing is okay, but But if you have any if you have like any side commentary, or if you have like a meme you want to post or things of that sort, use the text chat, because that's what it's there for. And so if you want to, just kind of quip at each other, this is the best line of the night, kind of a thing, and do that kind of thing in text chat, because, we don't want to distract from Vanya and River having a moment. And so that's really the only table etiquette that I don't always explicitly say, but I have carried over from other games, in that that roleplay moments like that are what I live for, and what I hope my other players are living for, because you never know. There could be a strong bond developing between Vanya and River that is blossoming, and I want them to be able to take full advantage of that. And of course, we are live on Twitch, and we are putting up VODs on YouTube. I want this to be the best production quality that we can master, because that showcases what we can do as players. So if you, for whatever reason, want to link back to it for any reason, then it's a good example. And I want to give you guys that. And so, quiet and respect and those kinds of things. I do have a bit of a stick up my ass when it comes to metagaming. Metagaming is frowned upon, is what I'll say, because I don't necessarily have hard, fast rules about it, but I generally dislike someone acting out of something that they haven't been expressly told. Now, D&D is a little bit more lenient that way, because it is a party-based game, and less so in Vampire. But just, I want any information that is shared between one character to another to be in their words. So that's big and important to me, so that we're not acting on knowledge that we shouldn't have. In character knowledge is in character knowledge. Out of character knowledge shouldn't be used unless you have a reason to know the thing. So, for instance, if you know that the monster that we're fighting is a beholder, and that it has the magic field and the eye stalks and things like that, you out of character know what this creature is. Does your character know in character what this creature is? Maybe not. Well, that's gonna depend on, maybe a knowledge check. But
we can always pose the magic question of, would I know this?
Do I know? Yes. That is always on the table. Do I know something about this? Do I know?
You can always ask, never assume.
Yes. Always ask, because it is possible to play a 20 intelligent character, and myself being a person who is kind of dumb as rocks, be able to still pull that off. Because there's something that my character might know that I don't, or something that I'm coming to a conclusion about. I want to know if my character is having the same conclusion. Generally speaking, that's a line that if you yourself as a person are jumping to a conclusion, then your character is jumping to that conclusion too. But as far as what things are, how they operate, what mechanics are involved, knowledge about how a creature operates is going to greatly depend on where your character's from and what knowledge they hold. So, just because you run into a creature that's a beholder doesn't necessarily mean that your character knows what a beholder is. So, that's all. That's all. That's really all I have to say about that. That's really the only table etiquette that I have is please don't metagame and please be respectful because we're putting on a show and we want the audience to have a good show. So, any questions? Any objections?
I think that's the end of my list of questions.
I don't think I have anything else on my mind immediately.
Okay. Well, I think then that's a good time to take a break because we've been going for 2 hours now. So let's take a quick break, back in about 10 to 15 minutes, get a drink, kind of get a snack, whatever it is you need to do. And we will be back with session 0 of Rebirth, a D&D tale. Be back soon, everyone. Welcome back, everyone, to Session 0 of Rebirth, a D&D tale, where, of course, we're deep diving into the different things that we expect out of this game going forward. So, speaking of which, something that I forgot to bring up is if you have any expectations out of me as your DM. If any.
Heartbreaking tears.
Heartbreaking tears.
That too. In all my years of playing Dungeons and Dragons, I have never actually fought a dragon.
Ha!
I mean, I don't know if you really want to be honest.
No, I
I
won't.
fought a dragon and it killed my potted plant.
Can we make
Anyway.
friends with the dragons?
That too. Anyways, point being, I don't care when. I just want to see you folks.
You just want to fight a dragon, okay?
I just want to fight a dragon.
Well, there might be a possibility. Who knows? Depends on if you find more. Depends on if you find them. So, that's on you. I know, I'm
Fighting
being
a
cheap.
dragon also sounds like getting eaten by a dragon to me.
I mean, there's a distinct possibility. But, just
I'm
know.
like, killing
I mean,
I
I feel
morlings just feels like infanticide. Infanticide.
I mean, if a dragon
Oh,
ate
an
Rune,
angel.
I'd feel bad for it. It's a hell of a bowel movement.
Yeah, uh-huh.
She said fight. She didn't say win the fight.
I mean, there's always going in with the assumption that you're gonna win, right?
That depends on the age of the dragon we're fighting, and sometimes those assumptions get thrown out the window.
In character, I cannot confirm whether a dragon is real or not.
Just here, and I'm like, I know exactly what minis you have. Especially your most recent win.
Hey now, no metagaming.
No metagaming, Dark Wolf. But yeah, let's just say that there is the distinct possibility out of character.
And there is no shame in running.
That
Keep
is
Coffee
always an
throwing
option.
Always an option. Always an option. But
Until it's not.
until it's not. After you've hit a creature a couple of times, it might not respond to words anymore. Just saying. So if you're going to try to persuade a creature that may understand your language not to hit you, do so before hitting it. I can't guarantee what happens after that. As I, as a storyteller, DM, whatever you want to call me, I am rooting for my player characters. I don't want you guys to die before level 20. Like, die, like not be able to return die. And so, in the event that a TPK is going to happen, well, I don't want that to happen. Because, you know, like I said before, nobody has fun at a TPK. Any good DM is in it for their player characters. And the player characters are what drive the story, not me. So, whatever you guys decide to do, that's what we're doing. Which, I may frequently ask you guys in the text chat, what are you guys doing? So that I know what to prepare for. Because preparing a lot of things from the seat of my pants when I don't know what you guys are going for, it's hard. It's hard in Vampire anyway, too. But it's especially hard when there's the possibility that you can go anywhere in the world. You know, given time and resources, whatever. But you can go anywhere in the world. And if I know what you are planning to do, whether you do it or not, then I have a basis from which to make those choices known to you. You know, whatever they might be. You know, if it's a creature comes up, if it's an encounter that comes up, if it's a person that comes up, you know, I can plan around what you guys are planning to do. Because if you're planning to talk to a bigwig somewhere, then I can have that character, you know, I can have an idea of how I want to play that character. You know, that kind of a thing. So, it's nice to have comments about what it is you guys are planning. It's not necessary, it's just nice. It's just nice from a DM's perspective. So I can plan and arrange things properly. But, because I need to prepare things if I'm going to do a thing. So
Yeah, with as many that are playing, if you have personal goals, I think it'd be good if on the side you gave a list of some short-term things that you hope to do, so that Coffee can take that into account for either downtime activities, or if you want to search for a dragon, as you know was brought up in conversation earlier, if that's somehow a goal, then maybe that can get woven into, you know, like maybe
into
you
the
find
story,
a map,
yeah.
or you're trying to look for you know, an NPC who might have, you know, heard a distant roar, or you're looking for signs of whatever. So it'd be good on the side with all of you if you have something like, hey, I really would love to craft my very first weapon. Okay, you know, the materials or whatever, if you're going to search for them or buy them, just a lot of this stuff that's side development. Like you're, as individuals, in my opinion, now this is Coffee's game. I'm not going to tell him how to run. I'm not going to tell you all how to play. But you're going to have to be more proactive about your characters, because it's going to be a lot more difficult to give detail to each of you and not have it turn into a very long, drawn-out process. So if there's a lot of things you want to do on the side, I would bring them up, like put them on sticky notes and like put them right there in front of Coffee. But, you know, make sure that a lot of this stuff is being done not necessarily behind the scenes, but at least there's a track forward on what you want to do, where you want to go.
That also being said, I am not going to discourage individualized roleplay. If, for instance, Rune wants to have a sidebar with somebody, or he wants to do a little bit of research, I'm going to allow him to do that. But I prefer that the on-screen time be moments that are going to kind of bond you guys together in a way, because side activities and downtime and things like that can get monotonous. I don't like them, if I'm to be completely honest, because yes, I want you to be able to do the crafting and things that you want to do and all of that kind of thing. Generally speaking, that's not what I want to spend that time on air doing. If you put side notes for me that you have this thing that you want to be doing in any of your, downtime, be that whether you're by yourself or whether you're in the midst of doing it while you're talking with somebody else, that's perfectly fine. But I don't want to spend in character 3 months working on something for one person, because that leaves everybody else twiddling their thumbs, if that makes sense. I want the screen time to be very well utilized, if that makes any sense. So downtime activities can be done over an extended period of time. It's just going to be done as something that you do before you go to sleep every night or something like that. It's going to be something like that. It is entirely possible that the whole party can decide to do a time jump where they're all doing downtime activities, in which case that's perfectly viable too. It's just everybody has to be on the same page for that. So if we're not all on the same page for that, then side projects, not like side projects, because there's going to be like things to do, but like little things like crafting a schematic. That's how much roleplay can you get out of that? That's kind of not interesting. Overland travel has never been interesting to me. It's one of those things that I prefer to time skip, because there's not much that really is an enjoyable experience to have, unless a character wants to have a sidebar with someone. Then you can have that during that kind of a time, or things of that sort. But then, we get right back to where you guys are wanting to be, and that's where we pick up the next scene, because that I don't need to go over the details of the Anne Bonny who's been on the seas for decades now, going through a storm that's a little rough. They know how to handle that. So unless some kind of encounter is actually story-wise necessary on any kind of overland or oversea travel, I'm more likely to just do a time skip, which would give you guys downtime. So I've always hated overland travel. I don't know about anybody else. I've always hated it as a mechanic. So that's how I intend to handle overland or oversea, depending on which one you're doing. But it would give you the opportunity to do those side projects just while you're traveling. More likely on oversea, because you're not actually necessary during any sea travel, especially if the Anne Bonny's in play, because they know how to weather storms. They've done it for decades. So if you want downtime, travel the seas. And then your little I'm making this, or I'm fixing that, or I'm brewing something, or I'm doing study of underwater animals. That all can happen a in a travel sequence. So, does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool beans. Well, the next portion of the session 0 that I wanted to tackle was a little bit of a mix between in character and out of character interactions between some of the characters. In that, I want to kind of get an idea of how some of these groups of characters, for one, how they met, so that the audience knows how that is that they met, and for two, how it is that they came to be in the middle of the Guayera archipelago at Seameat Canal, where lots of ships are traveling through that canal to get here and there and everywhere. So, I don't know that we actually touched on whether or not Rune is a part of a group, but how do you think that Rune got to where he is, and where did he come from in his travels? Waking up in Fallfire, how did he get to Seameat Canal in the middle of the archipelago?
Well, a lot of his travels involve trying to hunt down and find certain magics that seem of some peculiarity. One of his major missions and goals, personally, is to learn about the magic of the world and try and preserve it. So, in the event that he hears about something such as an artifact, or maybe, an area where there is of significant magical anomaly occurring, he just goes there. Sure enough, as I understood it, Fallfire is a little bit on the dead side when it came to that. It had been for a while. So he moved to where business is rich and plentiful and information can easily be found.
Okay.
Incidentally, it happens to be a trade center, the archipelago.
Mm-hmm. And based on what you just said there, that his travels may have actually taken him through the Grioran Empire, passing by, maybe at a glance, the big archaeological site that's been in the works of being dug up for the last 20 years. It's something of note that a lot of tourists are starting to be intrigued in, as well as archaeologists, as well as scientists, as well as arcanists. Any and everyone is flooding to that place to find out more about the world. And in passing by there, Rune would have discovered that that it has very different magic than what maybe he woke up to in the Fallfire plane in Mesotopia. It's based on a different arcane science, if you will. It's the old magic, the oldish magic of Mesotopia diminished and collapsed as a result of, you come to find that Ouijas is, as a faith, no longer has any power magically. And so you find that even just comparing arcane runes, comparing the science of it, that your magic, how you infuse items, how you interpret things, is even older than that. Even older than what's in the Grioran Empire. Even older than maybe Mesotopians Ouijas, and they've been doing magic like they have been for thousands of years.
He's walking into this to just something that's completely alien to him.
Yeah. And
more
this
or
is
less.
older than even Ouija's. You come to discover you're there briefly. You're not there for very long. You're there briefly to, and in doing that, you don't really get an idea of where this magic comes from necessarily. You would have to spend more time actually with the archaeology. You were kind of passing through in the desert because some of the people you were traveling with were low on supplies, and they were making a trade stop anyway.
My guy, I'm just gonna argue my guy just didn't have the credentials to get close.
That's entirely
So-
possible too. And so, with it being kind of a protected site, and you maybe got the tourist's definition of what's going on here, but you haven't had the chance to actually dig at the site yourself. So, you made your way to Colchester, the capital of this country. And from there is where you kind of, that being a capital city, it's industrialized, there's plenty of people. How do you figure you go from Colchester to the archipelago? What drew you to the archipelago?
I'm thinking that maybe frustrated he couldn't get to the archaeological site. I figured he's got to figure out a way through. I don't know. Would he
Just
know
kind of
about something with?
Just kind of wandering for a bit, I guess.
Maybe. I think the bigger question is, what is a prompt within the archipelago that he would know of?
Let me actually look at my notes here. Well, the archipelago, especially the southernmost islands, are some of the, especially the Desolate Rocks. If you look at the map that we have on Roll20, the Desolate Rocks are now just wastes, sandy wastes, with no life in them anymore because of the freezing over of most of the ocean down here. And so, with the ice that nearly swallowed the archipelago, perhaps kind of discovering maybe a true cause to that, because you're not entirely sure. It all kind of happened at the same time. The Sky Shadow Leviathan was destroyed. The faith of Ouija's no longer has power. That both of those things happened at the same time. Are they linked?
So he's trying to find like historical record.
Could be. He's maybe on an archaeological pilgrimage.
Okay. In addition to that, I thought about it, and I'm like, maybe he's also trying to understand the general technology of the world. So if there is like some sort of...
Oh my goodness, somebody's background noise.
I imagine like some sort of engineering-based guilds. And trying, like you said, this was kind of like a semi-industrial... Are there airships? Is that a thing?
Airships, as we do them in the previous campaign, are not run the same way. They're based on a different kind of magic. They're not driven by the captured souls of the dead. They're more steam or arcane power based.
Okay, well, the steam and arcane power based engines, I imagine at this point there's probably like some guilds, artisans, etc. that are specialized in. So he'd want to learn about that. And I imagine there's at least one town down that way, one city, that has a large base of engineers, basically.
So he's traveling with an engineers guild for now.
Yep. So I want to say he spent like a couple years of time actually doing that
Okay.
to try and justify some of his background here.
Okay. Okay. I can work with that. Yeah, he's the archipelago is definitely a big kind of international travel hub in that going anywhere in the world to anywhere in the world, you have to go through the archipelago. So if you're trying to travel anywhere, you go through Seameat Canal because that's where everybody goes through.
And so the Anne Bonny rides on in. Coincidentally, it would be Rune's crew that is assisting with trying to make sure the repairs are up to date.
All right. Sounds good.
I think that's a fair assessment, right?
I think that's a fair start.
Cool.
Whether or not he runs into them or not, Vanya and Shakran, you two are from the Grioran Empire. What brought Vanya to the capital city, Colcaster?
Well, her family owns a instrument shop. They make all the instruments they sell, including the guitar she carries. And as she got older, they started to grow. Traders started coming in with potentially cheaper instruments. And with her father's business dwindling, she decided to go out and try to turn up some business for him by going around and playing on the guitar he specifically made for her. And with her love to perform anyway, 2 birds, 1 stone.
Go to the capital city, see if you can drum up some business for your dad's shop, because Lord knows he can use the business. Custom commissions don't come cheap, but the common person from your hometown isn't all that wealthy. The wealthy people are in Colcaster. That's the hub city where the Tumbled Wench Taverns, the Paragon Arcane Power Company, Phoenix Wonder Prizes, and Wishbone Arcane Goods all make their home base. And so, with this also being a big center for other mundane enterprises as well, you know that wealthy people like custom shit. Wealthy people love custom shit. So maybe, just maybe, you can play your beautifully tuned, beautifully carved, beautifully painted guitar, show them the maker's mark, and steer them in the direction of your father's shop the next time that they happen by there. Because who knows, they may have a vacation house. For all you know. Not that maybe you put much care into it. But perhaps you caught the attention of a human girl named Shakran.
I mean, with a fancy guitar like that, you don't see things painted like that every day.
It's beautiful.
Is that like Galaxy or like a sunset? Yeah. What's the painting represent?
It was Galaxy Nebula based, if I remember correctly.
Yes, to resemble a portion of the night sky, because a portion of the night sky is a little bit colorful and nebulous, where you pass a certain point during the night and you can see the nebulous, what we could, as modern people would consider as the rest of the galaxy, out from this particular point in the night sky. But this is the point where it's the most colorful, the most star-ridden, the most densely populated portion of the night sky. It's hard to find any constellations in even. And so this painting represents that star-filled, colorfully dusted portion of the night sky with flowers kind of carved only slightly into the paint to reveal the wood texture beneath.
Well, it is absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would expect Shay is kind of just wandering at this point, like kind of looking for work or that first stepping stone towards hero-dom.
Mm-hmm. Because she does have a little bit of a hero worship, because your brother,
Yes, big brother.
Big Brother, went off to the other big city in this country. The city split in two, the old city and the new, in which he was looking to be a knight or a member of a special soldier project, part of the military. You're not entirely sure what it all entails, but he was eager. And so he left Colcaster to pursue his own version of herodom, and you're wandering the streets and happen across Vanya and perhaps follow her to wherever it is she's going.
If you need any help spreading your music or what have you, I have some, a little bit of experience in knowing how to say the right things to be a little encouraging.
Oh, any and all help would be much appreciated.
And frankly, I'm looking for friends.
Oh my. New people's always so much fun.
Yes. And so when the two of you meet and stick around each other for a little while, you eventually leave Colcaster to sail the archipelago a little bit and end up in Seameat Canal, a rather destitute place, if I had to say, except along the canal line. And Shay, you'd probably notice the considerable lack of wealth that this particular city has, even if it's a very common transport through hub. The businesses along the canal look prosperous, they look wonderful, but you start getting out into the outskirts of the small city, and you start to realize, so some of this is falling apart. Nothing like Colcaster. Colcaster sits atop a mountain in the middle of the beach, high in the hill, with the Tower of Paragon at the epicenter of it. Kind of a beautiful horizon sight, and this is very small comparatively.
Would there have been any homeless people about?
In Seameat Canal, very much so.
I think she definitely would have tried to break up a couple of her gold pieces to give to the homeless folks, just for the record.
Fair enough. Then we have Kinwin and River. Kinwin and River. River, you met Kinwin. How exactly? You mentioned that you met at the Sherfall Glades, but you haven't really of explored that.
So River is currently on the run after escaping from the arena. He was also injured during his escape, so he had run to the forest because he knows how to hide goblins, and had just come across Kinwin, and Kinwin had healed some of his injuries.
And that sort of brokered a friendship in a way, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Kinwin, what are some of your first impressions about River?
She seems strong and willful for being able to run away from slavery. Or he.
Yeah, River the character is male. Yes. The Tell us a little bit about Surefall Glades and what some of your people are like, how they would have accepted River.
It was a town founded by human, kobold, generally.
Oh, you're kind of cutting out a little bit. Yeah, I'm not getting everything you're saying.
Generally suspicious of outsiders, so hide her. Not in ugly out of it.
You're still cutting out for me. I'm not sure I'm picking up on you.
What of that did you catch?
It was bits and pieces. I didn't really. I caught the part that you said about they would have been suspicious about outsiders.
Yeah, it was a town founded by humans and kobolds, and they're usually insular.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not already like a druid or a ranger, they tend to be suspicious of you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the guild leader, Thalia. She's a little bit of an old crotchety woman, but she can be nice enough when she opens up to you. So she might have initially, upon you bringing River to the village, she might have initially had some. I'm not gonna say she had particularly nice things to say. She's very vocal about what it is her opinion is, and she's worked very hard for the things that she's been working at, and she doesn't want to see the authenticity of your village ruined. And so initially River was very begrudgingly accepted in as a sort of refugee, having explained his situation a little bit.
That would make sense as she adopted me and I was sort of an outsider.
Right. She's definitely very opinionated, always has been all your life. And even the acceptance of Otha has always been a little bit on the back burner of she's a woman stuck in her ways, Thalia.
Mm-hmm.
And so she ultimately accepts that River is a refugee, a slave escapee, that he's injured and that he should be cared for, as you've so wittingly convinced her. And for a time, you and River, and maybe even Otha, before you all started to before she left on her pilgrimage, all kind of resided nearby, maybe not together, but nearby each other. And when Otha left on her pilgrimage, she 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 knew she knew that things needed to be taken care of, that the ever growing desert to the north was threatening to take over your village. It's near close enough. And so by passing by the sculptures in the mountains of some of the people that have come before you in your clan, she says little prayers as she's walking by them. And you know these prayers to come from the old druidic that started your village, the druidic that you and your people still practice as far as a language, but it's certainly not commonly used anymore. It's been replaced by Argyle Common, which is another thing that's been progressively happening, is that more and more people are coming to the country as things progress in industry. The kingdom that houses itself in Red Hawk Keep is ever growing. They can only stay on that side of the mountains for so long before they have to expand. They may expand into your forest. Who knows? It's certainly the mountain pass, the hill pass, certainly makes it much easier than going over the north side of the mountains above the desert. And so the next step is for you to embark on your own pilgrimage, much like Otha did, maybe several years ago. You haven't seen or heard from her since. But you, with River as a new sort of brother-ish, you embark on your own pilgrimage to discover the root cause of the desert expansion and why it is that your people have to work so hard to maintain the forest. And so the pair of you would have gone through Red Hawk Keep to even get, sail off the country. What do you both think about all of the sort of industry that might be taking over a little bit at Red Hawk Keep?
I'd be fine with it, so long as it's not destroying nature.
They certainly mine a lot of coal down there.
So I might be slightly hostile.
They mine a significant amount of coal for some of their steam powered industry. They're a little bit more on the mundane side, but one of the recent events that you would have heard of, you and River would have heard of, is that the prince of this elf king, his heir to the throne, died mysteriously. And so, with that as some parting news, as you both go through the keep, sail out from there to Seameat Canal. You're maybe on a cargo barge when the both of you travel. But upon going through Seabeat Canal, possibly to get to the other side, get to the Empire, maybe you to take the next step of your pilgrimage. All of you would meet, maybe by happenstance, at a tavern called the Bilgewater Tavern. And that is where we're going to start session 1. with the 7 of you at Bilgewater. But we also did we talk about Darius and Lagan and how they met? Darius and Lagan. How did the two of you ever meet?
I fled my hometown. Just so I have it a little straighter in my head. The orphanage, is that in Mesomasca?
It is, yes.
Okay. So yeah, no, there was some stuff that happened, and I had to get out of there. Took off, looked for some work, ended up on a couple different ships over the years, eventually landing the Anne Bonny, and I think we had talked about I'm one of the newer greenhorns on the ship. And
Yep.
Learning from Lagan.
What do you think of Lagan?
Big.
He's a whole head and ribs taller than you.
Yeah. I mean, kindred spirits in a way. The just some of the things that I've seen and heard, and we have that. We're both a little, what's that in your pocket? And
a little bit of a pickpocket
look over
yourself,
there as I
too.
take your watch.
Mm-hmm.
I could have swore I left some money on that table.
Yeah, straight into my pocket.
I look forward to the banter between you two.
Lagan has been on the Anne Bonny for 20 plus years. Has worked his way up from the bottom of the ship to apprentice to the sailmaster. Has learned what abilities he has as a cleric from the current sailmaster of the ship.
Yes.
Part of his duties as the apprentice to the sailmaster is to take the greenhorns and make sure they know how the ship is run and maintained.
Yes, another Goliath, Mr. Henry Morgan.
Yes.
Who's actually cultivated a bit of a beard.
Interesting.
It's a little scraggly, but he has this nice little bead. This little bead that's maybe a little bit of a swirl of blue and white. That kind of glistens a little bit. That he has neatly tucked, like right up against his chin, with a little tuft of chin hair kind of hanging out of it. The rest of it's kind of a little closer cropped to his face, so that his individual markings still kind of show through. But that's a rarity. A rarity amongst your people.
Other than the oddity of him having facial hair that Lagan finds very weird, because he's never seen any other male Goliaths with this that didn't have something magical helping that along. The crew of the Anne Bonny is family, and very much like Darius, a bit of a kindred spirit in. Shit happened, had to leave home, and found home on the Anne Bonny, and has been here for, like I said, for 20 plus years. Everything he knows about the ship and the crew. They may have their issues, they may fight, but they support each other no matter how much they fight with each other or dislike each other as well.
So Lagan definitely has a very brotherly attachment to Darius, then.
Yes. And a bit of an older brother kind of looking out for Darius as well. would try to keep him out of trouble if he can, but
This is the Anne Bonny we're talking about.
You can certainly try.
Captain Charlotte Badger definitely knows how to make a little bit of trouble when she wants to.
But again, we are privateers, so pirates in a sense. Morally ambiguous is something we do on a daily basis. Yeah.
So how much history have you both shared with each other?
Lagan is very slow to trust anybody that's not a part of the crew. So I'm not sure how long Darius has been part of the crew, but he will have picked up stuff from other crewmates as well.
Okay.
Not just specifically from Lagan. I don't know exactly how much of a personal story Lagan has shared with Darius, but he will know that Lagan doesn't sleep very well, ever.
When Lagan sleeps, he's passed out, but it isn't long before he starts shifting in his sleep. He sleeps very restless.
Very fitful. Sometimes talking in his sleep. Not really so much talking as probably yelling.
You'll hear random shouts.
Yes.
Intermittent. Very, very toss and turn. Maybe even has occasionally witnessed a night terror or two.
Yes.
But Lagan also doesn't sleep on a very regular sleep schedule. He sleeps when he can. It's not that he goes to sleep at night.
If he's ever traveling on the ship and not on board doing something on the ship, yeah, he's sleeping.
What about Darius? How much of his story has he given Lagan?
Even having been, I mean, I think when we talked, I'd maybe been on the boat a year, maybe two. That even then, I really don't know how much other than just shit went down. Not saying a whole lot.
I mean, we can leave that for some in-character, development in the rest of the game. But if you want to leave that for more like in-character back and forth, but you can certainly leave it at, we both understand that we've both left where we came from as a result of something bad happened, and
can't go back.
We can't really go back.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Lagan doesn't even know if there's really anything to go back to now.
There might not be. You haven't really been back in that 25 years.
But that Darius is part of the crew will definitely have that familial feel for Lagan. That this is part of my extended family. You were my crewmate. You're family for me. Even though he is a slow person to trust outsiders or people that aren't part of his crew, he's a pretty good gauge or judge of character. So, unlike me, he is a little bit more outgoing and willing to meet new people. He enjoys learning new things.
Oh, good. And there's plenty of new things to learn about Darius, I'm sure, as time goes on, because you both
Yes.
haven't really spilled too many of the beans, but you feel close enough to know that there's a reason, and part of that reason for having left is you don't really want to talk about it. You understand that it's there, but you don't talk about it. And, in a sense, feel a bit of kinship in that regard. Where there's a thing that you both share, different points about your past, but it's a thing that you share. And that develops into a sort of elder brother Lagon, younger brother Darius kind of a relationship between you both on the ship. Where as you travel and to and from over the course of the 2 years, Darius, that you've been with the crew, you've seen many port cities. You've seen just about every port city between here and Mesomasca over the course of the 2 years. Often going between the Grioran Empire and Argyll as the common route, occasionally making your way the one time to the Mesotopia region. But haven't been back since.
How is the ship armed? Like cannons? Anything like that?
The Anne Bonny is kind of a medium ship. It's more of an escort than it is any kind of military or cargo vessel.
Military. Yeah.
There are some.
Oh, go ahead.
But it is more of an escort vessel to show safe passage through.
Using if we had to in a situation type.
Right.
Okay. Just in the 2 years I've been on here, anytime if had to use those, you've noticed I've been real gun shy, not wanting the explosion. You might see like a huge flinch. Not wanting to be anywhere near the explosion, any of.
Okay, so you're more likely patching holes and maintaining the ship with the carpenter at this point.
Yep. If he has to do any kind of below deck work, he's not going near the guns, really.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, alright. That's valid.
I like that as a quirk, actually.
Lagon doesn't have any of those issues.
And like it comes down to if I have to, if it's part of the job, I'll do it, but I'm not gonna like it. And I'm probably gonna make it known that I don't like it.
More likely if you're put on any of the weapons, more likely it'll be one of the two ballista.
Yeah, because there are ballista.
On board.
Yep, there's a couple ballista on the top deck, but all the guns and gunpowder is downstairs in the below deck.
Yes.
Ballista any day of the week, baby.
Would rather do the ballista.
So as far as leaving the ship, Henry has told Lagon it's time for him to go out and see the world and learn some things for himself that do not involve the ship, and he's really unsettled by this. He doesn't want to leave the ship for any reason, because for him the sea is freedom and go anywhere, do whatever. but he understands that Henry really does have his best intentions at heart and intends for him to follow in his footsteps as the sailmaster for the Ambani, and to do so he needs to learn more of the world than just this ship and the harbors that they visit.
Mm-hmm. Visiting a city for 2 or 3 days doesn't give you the grand tour.
No, doesn't teach you anything of the city other than which bars and inns that
Exactly.
you
That's
frequent.
and how many bars and taverns that captains maybe lost a wager at.
Right.
She's won many, but she's lost a few. And it always kind of bites her in the ass. But that's on a different island where all of the casinos are. They end up going through the canal, escorting a fairly large cargo barge through the canal, where the Anne Bonny is kind of waiting its turn to be tugged through, because the archipelago is treacherous. It is not easy sailing. It is a lot more. There's a lot more to control, which a lot of the vessels that go through the archipelago very likely end up rowing instead. They don't sail much, and instead large either rowing vessels, for those vessels that don't have oars to row with, are sometimes tugged even by like steam powered machines to get the kind of momentum that you need from Argyll, or arcane powered from the Greoran Empire. And the 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 vessels that do have oars make their way slowly but surely through the archipelago, and a primary function that the Anne Bonny serves is to show the route to be followed through the archipelago for the safe routes, especially for the vessels that can't navigate nearly all that well. Even through
avoiding those reefs.
Definitely avoiding the reefs. Definitely avoiding some of the southern icebergs, which you've noted, like, we're starting to develop during the time that the long winter hit 100 years ago, but have since shrunk and receded. But there's still some icebergs, even in the summer months. There is still treacherous reefs to get through. The route is mapped very precisely for a reason, and that is to get every vessel, large and small, through the archipelago safely, because it is the only safe route, treacherous as it is, through the waters. Because going out from a northern country like Holton, for instance, going straight from there across the Darchester Sea to another country like Argyll, just straight across, is a death sentence. That ship will never be seen again. So they have to stick to the planned routes. Otherwise, you can kiss that cargo goodbye. You're taking a chance with lives, with cargo, with funding, with money. Nobody in their right mind sails straight across the ocean.
Yeah, you want to keep the contracts you have with the people you have them with, and losing things just doesn't do that anymore.
So even going from a very north city, like one from the Shadowheart region, over towards another northern country in Ionia, or another northern city in Ionia. They don't go north; they go south and make their way around. It is a long and lengthy trip, but it is the only safe route.
Okay.
Going across from Ionia to the Mesopotamia region, across the arching tides, nobody does that either. That's too far. That ocean is more expansive than Darchester. Nobody does that. Who knows what's out there? There's tale of aberrant creatures that stalk the that stalk the underwater caverns, or maybe even another leviathan deep in the caverns of the ocean, deep in the trenches of the ocean. There's stories. Nobody's come back with any proof, really, except that ships that go out that region are never heard from again.
Can always
Well, maybe
find out.
the Leviathan just wants friends.
You are always able to go find out for yourself, but not at the expense of the crew.
But the Anmani going through Sinmut Canal is on a similar mission as it has always been. It's going through escorting a cargo barge. A cargo barge from the Grioran Empire to Argyll. And, of course, session 1 is where we're going to pick up from there. But if you guys have any additional notes or anything that you wanna add, or anything like that.
Well, I will say, just if Vanya and Shay traveling together, Vanya would know Shay is very private at night.
Yeah. Whereas usually in downtime, Vanya's sitting there either tuning the guitar, or just playing some sort of tune with Zephyr laying nearby.
And Zephyr's a good dog. He is absolutely a
That's the
treat.
voice.
Zephyr is best boy.
Zephyr is best boy.
There
I
is
agree.
a note that when Lagan is not on board ship, he does occasionally wear a kilt, and yes, traditional in the wearing of. So yeah.
It must be a fairly
Hey.
Goliath thing, because you've seen Henry Morgan sport one before. In very similar colors, but not exactly the same.
Lagan assumes that he comes from a branch of the family from what he wears, but he doesn't know that specific pattern. He doesn't know exactly what it means. He hasn't learned from Henry what that pattern means. Or that each pattern specifically denotes a different portion of the family.
Well, I'll let you determine that as far as flavor for the culture that you and Henry Morgan are from the same region. Might even be from the same village. He hasn't really gone into a whole lot of detail, but I'll leave that to you to add a little bit of flavor to the region of Ionia that you come from. So.
Okay. Yes, I'm very, very excited for this.
One thing I wanted to mention, I don't know how relevant or important it's going to be throughout this long term of this game, but I would, if possible, I would like help determining a name for the guild or company that Rune joined for a few years, as well as like a guild master or leader to sort of represent them.
Represent something important to him. Okay, yeah, I can definitely do that. I'm going to actually make a note for that for myself in the Roll20 so that I remember to do that.
Thank you. I can't think of anything right now, so.
That's fine. We can mull over it and over the course of time. And here we go. And I have made myself a note for that, which I am going to share with you so that you have it in your list of things that you can access. There we go. Just a little bit of Roll20 maintenance. Well, I think that kind of concludes how it is that you guys have kind of met and done a little bit of in character and out of character kind of back and forth determining of how it is that all of you met and how it is that you ended up at this little tavern in the canal. And I'm gonna open this up to you guys for any further comments or questions, cultural notes, things you want me to be aware of, any kind of last of the session kind of notes that we need to make here, in case I missed something.
My only note is for the NPCs, I had picked a different name for this mother.
Yes. What was it again?
Sparrow Song.
Sparrow Song. Okay. I will go ahead and fix that right now. That is fixed. Any other questions, comments, concerns, question marks? Well, then
Thursday yet?
Is it Thursday yet? Yes. So, I think that will conclude our session 0 then. Unless Maddie has something he needs to add into all of this. I don't know if he's left the chat or not.
No, I'm still here. No, I mean, I'll as much as I can because I'll be getting back into regular broadcasting here starting with this coming week.
Right.
I mean, I'll watch what I can. I'll keep my eyes on on the Discord as well.
Right.
If any of you as players, I mean, obviously tell Coffee whatever you want because, I mean, that's your main DM. But as a co-conspirator, as someone who is throwing out some story ideas and is happy to help out, I'm not just here for Coffee. If you want some help with your character, to think of something, to be creative, let me know as well. Or if there's a story element that you'd like to have considered, or if I can do anything in that regard to help you as a player. And obviously, Coffee, you know that I'm also in your corner here. I'm sort of an in between. I'm happy to go over things with you, and as the scenario might need some tweaks along the way from anything that we've talked about.
Right.
I'll be along for it as well, and I'm happy to. I'm really happy to see now the handing off of the setting and the concepts is now complete, and you have the whole world in your hands.
Oh my. Oh my. Oh, just as a final note, because you all have created characters, if you haven't already put it on there, you have your first inspiration point.
Oh.
So, we have finished character creation. We have thusly finished session 0. You may fill that inspiration portion of your character sheet with that inspiration point, which you may spend at your leisure, just remembering that to use it, you must declare that you are spending it first. to grant yourself advantage. So,
Oh, one last question.
yes.
Inspiration. Can we give our inspiration to other players?
I had originally intended for self.
Okay. Nope. I just wanted to double check because I know sometimes you can give your inspiration instead of using it.
Right. Since we do have the audience involved in some of that, where they can spend 25,000 channel points in order to buy you guys inspiration, I am going to intend it for self at all times. So that's
good.
That makes sense.
So
Yep,
that
just wanted to double check.
Have any bards in our crew?
Any bards? Oh, bardic inspiration. Bardic inspiration's different. I meant the inspiration.
No, I know that's different. I'm just curious. Is there a bard in the crew?
I mean, Vanya's the closest thing. She's an entertainer with an instrument.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're a bard. I mean, I can assume they are.
What are your what do you need a bard for?
I don't need one. I'm just asking if there is one.
On the Anbani, I haven't decided the rest of the crew's class yet, if any.
That's what I was asking. Not in the party, because I don't know any of you yet. I'm asking about the crew.
In the crew,
and when I say the crew, I mean the Anbani.
In the crew, I haven't determined all of their class, if they're going to have a class at all. They're probably going to be sailor commoners.
Okay.
Most of them. I think the only ones that might have the exception would be Henry Morgan and the captain. Okay. The others, I haven't determined whether or not they will or not.
Cool.
So,
if I can speak as well as a... Oh, go ahead.
I said that was my only question.
Okay.
If I can speak as well as a DM that just finished up a long-form campaign, and it sounds like you all are signing up for one here. I tremendously appreciated, while it was never required, that my players, anytime that they would do a little bit of cosplay or makeup or do a doodle or something along those lines, all those little things really do add up over time.
Mm-hmm.
They really, it can help get you into your character, or maybe you just paint a mini that looks like your character or something along those lines.
Which I did.
I definitely would urge you all, as you go on this adventure, keep a journal or a notebook if you're not artistically inclined, or if you are, but you're like, I can't draw people, but you draw, I don't know, you can draw your weapons, or you can draw the ship or the landscape or the seascape. Just, I don't know, keep little notes, have fun with it, really immerse yourself, because that will really help make the world come alive even more, and give each other a lot more energy to work off of as you're sharing your visions and your quotes, and your little creative efforts through cosplay or accents or, makeup or whatever else.
Just to add on to that, if any of my cast members or any of the audience has fan art that they want to send me, they may, and with permission, of course, I will put a slideshow up at the start and break screens once enough art has accumulated, and so that we could have plenty of visual representations of the story as it goes along. If and when and these kinds of things kind of accumulate. Darkwolf, I know that you're an artist, and will likely draw a lot of scenes that have to do with River, and that if the mood strikes and there's an appropriate photo that you want to take, Raven, that gives you kind of Vanya vibes or Shay vibes, or whatever it is, we'll include that too. All of our artists, and we'll if you guys want to, I'm not asking for any of that. If you guys want to do those things, I have an assumption that Darkwolf is going to do these things because she did for Norlai. So But if you want to make a if we want to make a slideshow collection, then we can certainly do that to include as part of the broadcast. If you
And
guys
I
are
just give me the link to the Google Doc, and I'll throw some pictures in there.
and once and if enough is accumulated, then we can do a slideshow at the start and in the break screen. But I don't have the editing skills to be able to put together a beginning movie because I'm poor. I don't. But with
I will happily use my video editing software if you want me to ever do a project for you like that.
if enough accumulates, then I might think about it because
Yep, just let me know.
intro animatics have always been something that I've wanted to do for my shows, but never actually had the skill to do. So, but it would be something like an animatic or a slideshow, but it wouldn't be something like fully animated because that's ridiculous. That's a lot. I wouldn't ask anybody to do that much work for me. Please don't. Please don't do that
I've
much.
already started.
I mean,
Oh, God.
I put in a lot of work in this particular campaign already. I've spent a lot of my time for you all. So, but yeah, I appreciate everybody coming out to our session 0, and welcome to Rebirth, the continued story of the world of Zubiwao. The setting that was created on a whim during a Maddie workshop and has evolved into what it is now. So, you're welcome, Maddie.
Oh, thank you.
But let's see about finding somebody to raid, and who out of my cast are live streamers. I know, Raven, you tend to do some live streaming, so give yourself a bit of a shout out. What's coming up on your channel and all of that good stuff. Where to follow you, all that good stuff.
Well, I kind of taking a small break because IRL shit has been happening, but I'm usually streaming Monday through Friday, except on Thursdays now, apparently, because I'm here. Monday through Wednesday, I'm usually editing photos. Friday's gaming day. Usually do go with the Will Torment. It's a game. I play that game all through stream. Otherwise, you can find me bouncing back and forth between Derek's channel and Maddie's channel, because I am one of Maddie's, old mods.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to torment them when I can. You can also find me on Instagram as Hazlitt Photography. That is where I post most of my work.
Mm-hmm. Very nice, very nice. Dark Wolf, you occasionally stream.
Yes. So I have a VTuber. I am a VTuber. And I typically stream video games. My schedule after this week is going to be probably Friday through Monday. I'm also found on the Hero Zone for occasional.
Maddie's away, a woo will play. Yep, the occasional a woo will play.
Yep. Also that, which I will probably get to in like an hour because I have.
Yep. Well, Spectre, you don't do much in the way of streaming lately these days. Pale Dragon, do you stream at all?
Do.
Let's give you a little bit of shout out. Where can people find you?
Well, I'm on Twitch with the Pale Dragon. I run 2 games, one on Monday, Dungeons and Dragons 5e, Monday and Wednesday from 6:30 to 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm also on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, where on those platforms I share a little bit of D&D, but I also raise bearded dragons.
Ooh, bearded dragons are so cool.
Yeah. I'm hoping to bring. I need to update my lair equipment, but I'm hoping to bring live streams of the dragon lair for the dragons to Twitch as well sometime soon.
Very nice, very nice. Love it.
Yeah.
Love to see it.
I'm on a bit of a break as well, but I'm restarting, or not restarting, but my D&D games resume on July 18th.
Very nice, very nice. It's something to look forward to get more of our D&D fix. Those of us nerds. Quingar, Woden, do you guys do any streaming?
No.
I occasionally do. You can find me at Demon_Quingar91 on Twitch. Most of the time it's going to be either Horizon Forbidden West here lately. Just started a hard playthrough on that one, so that'll be interesting.
Okay.
And then occasionally Pokemon, it's a fan-made Pokemon game, Pokemon Reborn. I've been playing a little bit, so.
Very nice, very nice.
Yep.
Well, that does it for us here at CoffeeCat Presents. I want to thank my lovely cast for being around for session 0, because you guys are pretty great, and I love your characters so far, and I look forward to even more of this, whatever this is going to be. It's going to be a wild ride, because we have a lot of morally ambiguous characters. But I hope it's fun, and I look forward to the rest of the ride. So, with that being said, you can definitely give us a follow and a subscribe on CoffeeCatPresents.com, where all of my socials are, where you can find my YouTube channel. You can even do !YouTube for the YouTube link. I'll go ahead and post that in the chat right now. But definitely, if you missed any of today's VOD, or you want to go and scrounge around in my YouTube channel for whatever, like Vampire, or for more of this, then you can, because I want all the subscribers. I get a custom URL if I get 100 subscribers, so go do it right now. But that finishes us up here, and say goodnight, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye. See you soon.
Yes, next week.